To another edition of the Cubs Now podcast. My name is Lance Brozdowski, your player development analyst, and I'm joined by the one and only Alex Cohen out in Colorado, calling the Colorado series. You're not at Coors right now, as we could tell from the blinds in the background. Looks like you're in a hotel room, hopefully a very nice one. Give me the vibe in Colorado here. How's the stadium? How's the team? How's everything looking?
Well, first of all, it is a nice hotel room, so thank you, Major League Baseball, for that. Second of all, Coors Field, 31 years old. That's a stadium that has aged like a fine wine. Really big ballpark. We talked about it on the broadcast. Surface area-wise, it's the biggest ballpark in baseball by, I think, an extra 3,000 feet. And you can feel it, especially with balls hitting into the gap, down the lines. It just feels like the plays take a little bit longer. The first game for the Cubs against the Rockies was not great. It's kind of just a microcosm of what the last month has been like. The Rockies got out to an early lead on the Cubs starting pitching, and the Cubs had some good swings. They had, 8 balls hit over 100 miles per hour. Michael Busch hit a home run, but just not enough. And you got to take advantage of these opportunities for the Cubs to get your offense back to swinging the bat right. And as of right now, they haven't done that with any major consistency.
Yeah, I always want to ask you for what I'm going to call the vibe check, just because you're around the team a lot and traveling and such. Like, give me some optimism here. Is it positivity in the clubhouse? You have to stay positive. You have to trust the process and all that stuff. But tell me there's some glimmers of hope in the eyes of some of these guys.
I won't say that there is a lot of positivity. I will say that there is a lot of urgency. You talk to Pete Crow Armstrong, he's National League Player of the Week, and people are talking about you're playing well. He's like, I don't really care, man. We're not winning. We need to be winning baseball games. This isn't for individual accolades. This is to put the best foot and the best team forward for the 2026 Chicago Cubs. And right now they're not getting it done. It was very self-reflective, introspective, but you get a guy like Pete Crow Armstrong who is turning back into his 2025 form. And he said, that's great and all, but it's just not good enough. We need to be winning baseball games. That's the ultimate priority. So I think that urgency from a young player who is playing well hopefully will reverberate through the rest of the clubhouse.
Yeah, we'll talk hitting in a sec. I want to start on the pitching side. I think the problem, with diagnosing the issues this season for the Cubs is the fact that you have two of the major pillars of any team, starting pitching and offense, both kind of behind where you thought they would be at this point in the season, especially after the really strong April they had. On the pitching side in particular, I know there's been injuries, but it does feel like even some of the pieces that are in the rotation that you needed to kind of step up haven't really performed in a way that has been incredibly successful. We're going to rip through a couple tweets here just to show you kind of what they're dealing with. But Taillon's injured right now. Boyd is on his way back. Shota's given up a lot of home runs. Conray's last couple starts have not been great. Edward Cabrera, again, his velo is up in that first game off the IL from the blister, and now he gets a Coors start coming up. So I think it's a little tough to kind of diagnose where he is post-blister injury just because of how weird Coors is on pitchers in particular and how much it affects shapes, and the fact that I'm not really going to try to evaluate a guy coming off a blister injury pitching in the stadium that contracts the movement on his ball more than anywhere else in baseball by a wide margin. What needs to break here? Is this just a matter of Shota stepping up and being as good as he was in April? Is it really as simple as just getting Boyd and Cabrera back and creating a floor? What is your angle on how this team gets back to being, at least a top half rotation, if not middle, let's say top 10? They were that last year. They were really good. Boyd, career year. They had all these elements break in their direction. It just seems like this year it's broke in the complete opposite direction, and they're trying to rebound.
You talk about the simplistically angle or the simple angle. Well, when you have 5 starters on that page and you have a 4.99 ERA, a 5.13 ERA, a 6 ERA, a 4.74 ERA, and a 4.59 ERA, if those are your 5 starters right now in a rotation, odds are you're probably not winning many baseball games. And I understand that the hitting question is a lot more difficult to diagnose and is frustrating. But when it comes down to it, if you have a starting rotation with those numbers, odds are you're not winning games. So the starting pitchers just need to be better. They need to limit homers. They need to get healthier. Getting Edward Cabrera back, getting Matthew Boyd back will certainly help. Getting Javier Assad possibly into the rotation could help. But when it comes down to it, they just got to pitch better. They got to limit the home runs. They have to limit the damage. I think the walk rate has been okay. They got to punch out more guys. Their stuff needs to be better, and they need to pitch better. It's as simple as that.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, I think we've seen the best teams in baseball from a pitching standpoint are the ones that you envy. I'll say like the Dodgers, and I'd say the Mariners are an enviable team. Really good on the minor league side. Don't even throw that hard in the minors, but just do a really good job of converting guys into starting pitchers. These teams have so much depth that it's like insane. And you could argue the Mariners rotation stayed pretty healthy over the last couple of years. You could say the Dodgers hasn't. And they've invested so much on the pitching side. And I'm not saying the Cubs haven't. I just think the Cubs' lack of spending in the draft, I think, might be rearing its ugly head. And I mean spending
Yeah.
specifically on pitching. That's been something, I think they're bottom five in baseball in terms of pitching spend over the last 5 years, or excuse me, last four drafts specifically. That is, I think, catching up with them a little bit. Like, it would be great to have Jackson Wiggins healthy and in this rotation to some extent right now, but he's not. Apart from that, you don't really have anybody at AAA that you could bring up. You're using kind of, Assad is the name, but he's kind of been some kind of major league starter. He's had the options bug where, unfortunately, he's just been a guy who's had options, so he just keeps getting optioned back down. And when he's had longer runs, he's kind of struggled third time through and such. But I think that if you were to like single it up on something, like why isn't there more depth to come up and really reinforce this? Listen, I don't think anybody expects to run into like as many injuries as they've had, but I do think if you put the same bad juju on the Mariners and on the Dodgers from a injury standpoint, I do feel like they would field better upper minor starters that have the opportunity to contribute. And I just don't think the Cubs are there right now with that. And I don't think it's depressing. I think it's something they're going to fix. But it's tough. It's tough to see three starters go down, four starters go down in a rotation, and then you have like no one else on the back end of this rotation that you can kind of count on. You're literally just really hoping health luck starts to push back in the Cubs' direction and you get Boyd back to being as good as he was last season. So I know I'm rambling a bit here, but it's tough. Like I think this draft coming up, not to preview the draft, but this draft coming up, you got a late first round pick. There's a lot of college pitching there. I will be shocked if they don't take a pitcher there. And I know there's a lot of good names. I don't know how they're going to sort through who. I know they've been consistently on college bats and upper minors bats, not upper minors bats, but more mature bats that could convert into major league assets quicker. But man, it would be really nice if you could draft a college pitcher that like is a year and a half away, 2028 season breaks the rotation and is throwing 95, 96. Like that would be incredible.
You're basically talking Gage Jump. Like you could draft Gage Jump and then a year and a half, you up a 98 in the big leagues. And no, I mean, you look at 2022, they drafted Cade Horton. They drafted 2021, they drafted Jordan Wicks. 2022, they drafted Cade Horton. And really, since then, they haven't invested any major top tier number one overall pick draft picks on pitchers. It's been from a hitting perspective, and they've really benefited from that. Getting guys like Matt Shaw, then trading Cam Smith. Like they've developed a lot of talent in that area. It just hasn't been from a pitching perspective. So right now, seeing them struggle from a pitching perspective, especially starting pitching wise with older pitchers who are getting hurt, and then obviously Cade Horton, which was really unfortunate. That's been tough to watch.
It's been tough. Moving to the offense now as we're doing another diagnostic here of the Cubs and what's going wrong. But the offense has been in a weird spot. Let's start with Nico Horner, who had a really strong start to the season. Now he's kind of just under his expected metrics a bit. I mean, it's just kind of a weird spot. I think we all maybe expected a bit of regression coming from him. He had a bunch of slug early in the year, despite the fact that bat speed wasn't really up or barrel rate wasn't really up in any material direction. So for the most part, we've seen him come back to earth a little. But oftentimes you don't revert directly back to that average. You revert sometimes to below that average, and that's where he's at right now. This feels like a bit more of just like a luck happenstance thing. Give me some thoughts on Nico Horner. This feels like it'll just turn around pretty quick.
It's a little complex just because Nico signed a contract extension midseason. So when you're making that much money, the expectations are naturally a little bit higher. And since he signed that contract, I think it was 3 weeks after where he started struggling after getting hit by a pitch on the helmet against San Diego. With Nico, you're getting paid that much. You have allocated resources towards you. You got to be better. And I think with Nico's stats, you look at the BABIP and you look at his exit velo, like he's run into some bad luck. He has. But that being said, he hasn't delivered with runners in scoring position, which he was so good at in 2025, which was why it was a big reason he was basically a 6-WAR player. I think it's a combination of bad luck and now you're expected to produce just a little bit more because of all the resources that have been allocated to in a contract extension. So he's under a bigger microscope and he is performing as well. So I think Nico has to be a little bit better. He has to get some better luck, and I think he will. I think we'll find a stretch sometime soon, hopefully. But maybe after the All-Star break, when he gets a little bit of a break and gets some time off, I think Nico overall will be fine. I think we'll be looking at this at the end of the season. Yeah, he might not hit 300, but he probably hits 260, 270. You're looking at the WAR somewhere in the fours, and he's not the reason that the Cubs are having all of these issues. He's not a reason why they're getting out of it right now, but I don't think he's the primary reason why this offense in general and this team in general is struggling over the last month.
Yeah, and I also don't feel like he's a guy that this is a weird way to put it, but I don't know if he's a guy that can truly get them out of a slump. I often think you slug your way out of slumps, which is why my brain goes to Bregman, to some extent Seiya Suzuki, and also Dansby Swanson. Those are the guys where the slug is down so much that you're just running into situations where it would be great to put up 2 to 3 runs in an inning, and then it's let's string together a bunch of singles, and that's really hard to do in modern baseball, even against a team like the Rockies or some of these other teams they face that don't have good staffs. It's just really hard to put ball in play. The batting average in Major League Baseball is below 240. That, it's a different game than it was. So I think Nico's a stabilizing force. It's just you need to layer on top of him the big bats of Suzuki, who I expect to get going. Bregman's got to get going. Swanson's got to get going. Hap's really been the surprising angle here, where there's no need to critique him. He's been arguably the best hitter on this team, apart from Pico Armstrong. But Hap's barrel rate's been insane. So it's tough. I did like this tweet from Brendan Miller as well that pointed out an odd quirk. They have a lot of weird things going on where, they're walking a lot. They're not slugging a lot. They're also not striking out a lot. They're kind of a little below average in barreled balls. They're also kind of hitting the ball hard, and they're lifting the ball. So you'd almost expect all these things to result in better ball and play results, but they just kind of aren't doing that. Brendan Miller had a tweet that said basically they are not hitting balls middle, which is weird. That's majority of the damage. I think 70% of home runs in Major League Baseball are hit over the heart of the plate, and the Cubs are not doing damage there. So that's surprising to me, and I think that maybe is what is underlying in a lot of the barrel rate and some of the other stuff we're looking at as to why they're just not slugging more. But we could talk end on end about this. It just feels like there's multiple pieces that need to get right, and it'd be great. I think Bregman is the one. If Bregman could get back to what he's been doing for his entire career, you're then looking at a better lineup. I just think he stabilizes the top of the lineup. You just need top of lineup production. You can get Bush has been fine, Hap's been great, Pete's been great, and then just give me one more. Just give me Bregman. Make it intimidating for pitchers to turn over the lineup and go to the top of the order, as opposed to kind of what you're running into now, where it's if I don't let Pete beat me, and if I could kind of pitch around Seiya and Michael Bush can be matched up with lefties, then I'm not too worried about the rest of the lineup. That's not a recipe for a team to be a top 10 offense in baseball.
For me, it's Seiya. If Seiya did what he did last year, you look at the first game against Colorado this series. It was a ball hit, I think 107.8 or 108.8. It was a ground ball to third base. It brought in a run, but that's a ball that Seiya last year hits 440 feet. And if Seiya is able to lift that ball in the air and put it in a gap or put it over the fence like he did 30-plus times in 2025, this is a different team. And I think Bregman really needs to step up. He really thinks he needs to step up. I think Seiya is the X factor of this offense. If Seiya is hitting at an all-star level, this team's going to the playoffs. I'm pretty bullish on that.
Yeah, I appreciate that. That makes a lot of sense. I think the accountability for Bregman is the thing to tip his hat to. He's clearly just been I'm awful and I will be better. So I think that'd be a huge boost as well. So we got our X factors here. You mentioned All-Star before we get out of here and talk some more fun stuff. I know this has kind of been a demoralizing A block, but I just feel like that's relevant based on the vibes right now of the team. Ben Brown, got to shout him out. My question to you, Alex, is it feels like Pete will probably end up an All-Star. I'd be stunned if he doesn't end up an All-Star. I think he's going to get a lot of fan vote. He's a very popular player, and he's deserving, without a doubt, of that honor. Give me the second Cub All-Star, because I don't know if they're going to get a second. I hope they get a second, obviously. And is it Ben Brown? Because right now, that's, I think, the candidate right now to be the second rep from the Cubs if the Cubs get a second one.
I think it's Ben Brown. My third would probably be Ian Happ, but there's been so much production from outfielders this season that I am not sure that Ian gets in with Ben. He hasn't allowed a home run over this span since March 31st, 53 and 2/3 innings pitched, no home runs. You look at that ERA, it's below 2. He's not walking guys. The whip is great. He's a top 10 pitcher in baseball right now due to, pretty much every metric out there. In the NL, it's tough. Skeens has been pretty good, obviously. Braxton Ashcraft's been good. Mizorowski's been good. Otani's been good. Christopher Sanchez has been awesome. So there's a lot of really good starting pitchers. I think Ben Brown should have been just as good as those. I think he's an all-star in the NL. I think it's Pete. I think it's Ben Brown. And I think Ian Happ right now has an outside chance.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think those are the three candidates. So we'll see exactly how the fan voting goes and how some of the replacements go, because some of these guys are eventually going to pitch on that Sunday before things actually get going and then be replaced. So Ben Brown, where our fingers are crossed, be awesome to get him in an all-star bid. That'd be an unexpected storyline entering this season. I don't think any of us thought that in March. So shout out to him for having an unbelievable season and righting the ship for this rotation, because I have no idea where they would be without Ben Brown in the rotation right now. All right, quick break. We'll be back with more Cubs talk right after this. Welcome back to the Cubs Now podcast. Lance Brozdowski alongside Alex Cohn, who's out in Colorado. We're chatting some baseball here. It was a bit of a morbid first half of the show, but we got to skew a little more positive now. I want to bring up some minor leaguers who are mashing. We tend to do this when we have some Road to Wrigley shows coming up. We have one coming up on June 18th, Thursday night, 6 p.m. Central Time. I'm very excited for that. It'll be myself, Alex Cohn, and Jim will be out in Omaha remote. We're going to do a little prediction of the College World Series at the end of this. But first, I got to shout out Owen Ayers, who it was a $50,000 sign back in 2024 in the 19th round out of Marshall. Definitely like a deeper cut guy, but Callis always mentions how this dude has just an absolute cannon for an arm. And I think the catching's coming along to the point where you could dream on some kind of like offensive first catching profile. I know he's already 25, but catchers in general generally take some time to become legitimate prospects, but he's been great at AA, walking 16% of the time. Strikeout rate is in check, especially for the amount of power that he's showcasing. He's grading right now is about like a 50% above average for the level. So he's mashing. It's fun to see some of these guys, even if they're not immediately going to make an impact on the next, let's say on this year's Cubs team. It's cool to see that, from a bat development side, the Cubs have always been pretty strong at churning out names, and Owen Ayers is another one. Is there anybody else in the org, Alex, that's kind of jumped out to you recently?
I mean, I really like that Tennessee team in general with Owen Ayers, Jefferson Rojas, after being a little bit banged up. And then you have Brooks Capel as well. So Rojas was banged up about the first month of the season. I think he missed like 2 weeks or played like 3 games in a span of 2 weeks. His offensive profile to me is off the charts. Like I think that he has a Jackson Churio type of swing, power development, only 21 years old. Like I think his offensive ceiling is pretty high. And then you have Josiah Hartshort in South Bend, who's obviously surpassed all expectations here in 2026. But I look at that Tennessee team with the catchers, Owen Ayers, Ariel Armas, and then you have Brooks Capel, who is turned into a top 30 prospect, hard-throwing top 30 prospect, 94 to 96, velo only increasing. So I like that AA team. You look at some of the guys there, they could really make an impact.
Yeah, it's good to see. Definitely some names there. I think Rojas is an interesting one. Here's Ayers winning Southern League Player of the Week here. Rojas is interesting just because of the body development there. I mean, he was a guy that was like going to stick at short, wonder where the bat goes, and now it's like he's gotten so big, he's hitting the ball so hard, he's probably going to have to move off short just because his range is down a little from the prior years. But I think that the net of who that could be as a player is a bit more exciting. Of course, you always want a prospect to stick at shortstop. But the same idea kind of goes for Ayers. Like if he could stick at catcher, and he could walk 15% of the time, that's unbelievable. If you move him off first, he becomes a little less intriguing. So if I'm the Cubs, I'm definitely trying to push this guy as high as possible in the system from a catching standpoint, just to see if you could absolutely hit an awesome outcome of a bat first catcher who's also a pretty good glove. Not a lot of those in Major League Baseball. One of them almost won MVP last year. Ayers isn't a switch hitter, but Cal Raleigh was pretty great. But yeah, shout out to some of the minor league guys doing a great job. Hopefully we get some late season playoff baseball from some of these teams if they play well in either the first half or the second half. I want to jump to some what did we miss, which we've done in the past a couple times, just ripping around the league, some elements that maybe we've overlooked or haven't brought up or maybe you missed as a viewer. First one, the A's are playing in Vegas, and this ballpark, man, I know you were at AAA for a while. You saw some weird ballparks dimensionally, or maybe not too much from an altitude standpoint, but that PCL has some parks. The A's and the Brewers scored 29 runs on Monday, and then another 12 on Tuesday, and I don't know. That's insane. My question here is that when they actually make the park in Vegas and the Athletics get down there, A, it's got to be a dome because of the heat. B, are they going to have like the greatest humidors of all time? Because that's the only way you can make this not an absolute joke of a clown show field, because right now you have balls getting sawed off the other way, 315 getting out. I mean, that's insane.
I don't even think the humidor is going to help. I mean, I think that the ballpark in Vegas is going to make Coors Field feel like Wrigley Field with the wind blowing in April. Like, I think it's going to be the most hitter-friendly environment in baseball. I mean, this was obviously played at the AAA stadium that was built 5 years ago. The series will continue to do that. Actually, the Rockies are going to play in Vegas. Just think about that series. It's going to be Rockies, A's in Vegas. Like, whatever the over is, take the over because they're going to score a lot of runs. You just see that first game, there was 11 home runs, and I think like the difference between the furthest hit home run and the shortest hit home run was like 167 feet. It's insane.
Crazy.
I think that the dome will help a little bit. I think that some sort of humidor will help a little bit. It's going to be the most hitter-friendly environment in all of baseball. It's going to be more than Coors Field.
Yeah, and it's weird because Coors, I often feel like gets miscast. Like, it's obviously like the biggest surface area of outfield, and like the BABIP there, batting average on balls in play, skyrockets. But I think there's like 6 or 7 parks that actually influence homers more. Great American is one of them. Dodgers Stadium's a sneaky bandbox. So if you basically take Coors and then you make it a homer park, that just becomes like the stupidest thing I've ever seen in my life. So anyways, this is a topic that I imagine people will talk about a bunch. Dalton Rushing, another thing we missed here, had a weird slide. This is a rule that I believe I was just Googling around trying to find like actual rules. You have to have basically a foot or a hand within the bag. You know, he's stretching it here. This guy is definitely, I mean, he's not stretching it. I just saw that angle. He's way off second base there, but you can call it a dirty slide. This guy has got a lot of flack. I mean, he hasn't played a lot of games in Major League Baseball, but you know, I don't know. I don't know if is he the most hated player in baseball right now. I feel like he's getting flack from all sides, and it's not great sometimes when the call's coming from in the house. I don't entirely know. You know, a lot of the Dodgers guys seem to be rationalizing it by saying he just plays hard between the lines, but you know, there's gradations of that. I think Pete Armstrong plays hard. Pete Armstrong does not play dirty. This feels like it's borderline here. We're on the fence getting to what are you doing territory, Alex.
Lance, that's not borderline.
Okay.
That's not borderline. That might have been borderline in 1996, where slides, out of the baseline were a little bit more, good, hard nosed. Like that's how you play the game. But even that slide at that generation, like he's probably getting beamed the next pitch. Like next time he steps up, like he's probably wearing 94 in the ribs. And the fact that he's doing this on his rookie year, and this is not the first interaction, and he's said some things, he's done some things, like he is, because of the team that he plays on and the reputation that he plays with, he is one of the least regarded players in baseball. Yeah, he's not well liked, and if he keeps on doing things like that in this age of baseball in 2026 and social media, that will only continue. It's a dirty play.
Yeah, I think, I don't know off the top of my head, you know when the Dodgers come back to Wrigley? Well, that's a late season series, right?
I believe it's a second half, yeah.
Yeah, second half. I think that feels like an August-September series, but I know in the past those series have generally gotten cleaned up pretty early in the year. I feel like the Dodgers would come back to Wrigley in April, I think 2 consecutive years, or at least early May. And this year it's being pushed. So, yeah, that's going to be a fun series with Rushing in there, PCA versus the Dodgers. That's always an electric matchup, especially because that's arguably, I mean, they are the best team in baseball. But College World Series is going on right now. Our guy Jim Callis is out there. Interesting bracket. I think coming into this, everyone thought UCLA and Georgia Tech, who's just unbelievable offense, going to have probably 6 or 7 hitters drafted in the first couple rounds. Those were the teams that were like shoo-ins almost to get to this. I guess they call it the Elite Eight here to some extent. But they got bounced early. But UCLA and Georgia Tech, who have Rock Chalowski and Vaughn Lackey, will be probably 2 of the top 3 picks in this upcoming draft. So this is the bracket as we head into the final of the College World Series. Georgia, a pretty strong team. Alabama's always strong. North Carolina's been good. My pick's Ole Miss. I always am going to lean towards the pitching side, but they have 2 names, Kate Townsend and Tyler Rabe, who are both really fun pitchers that, I'm not saying anything, but maybe the Cubs I believe they're picking 23 this year, but they're both projected to go like late first, or what you call the sandwich rounds, which are kind of the compensation picks that come up because of free agents. So my pick's Ole Miss. I'm going off the board here. I'm not sure what the markets have as the favorite, which I'll look up as I ask your pick, Alex, for the College World Series.
There's a lot of SEC love here. I'm going to go with an SEC team. It's not going to make Jim happy. It's not going to make our producer, Derek Jensen, happy. I'm going to go Roll Tide. I'm going to Roll Tide. In LeBron, from a baseball perspective, we trust. Like, I won't trust LeBron in basketball, but Justin LeBron for Alabama, one of the better position players in the draft. He's really good. He kind of caps off that lineup. I'm going to go with Roll Tide. I'm going to go with Alabama.
Yeah, it's a good one. Peeking at some of the bracket here online, Georgia seems to be that Georgia-Texas matchup seems to be the favorite to produce whoever will win this. But you never know. College baseball can be wacky, especially in small samples. Alex, great talking to you as always. Enjoy Colorado, and we're excited to have you back, obviously, to Chicago for some more Cubs Now podcasting. Thanks for watching as always and listening on YouTube, Marquee Sports Network, wherever else you listen to our beautiful voices talk about the Cubs. Hopefully some positive news coming up for these Cubbies.